I decided to make today's video on Mahakam. I wanted to go over what Mahakam is. We know it's a dwarven city, but I want to go into more of actually what it is, like where it is and who controls it, etc. Its importance in the games, and just the entire history of it that we know so far. If I'm missing anything, be sure to comment down below, as it's really useful. If you do a good enough comment, I'll probably pin it, because then it's useful for people that are watching. I also want to go over notable people from Mahakam, just not who they are as their entire backstory, but just a little bit of information about them. So to begin with, Mahakam is a vassal state, which basically means that it's controlled by a bigger power. It's also a mountain range, and it's between the kingdoms of Temeria, Edirn, Lyra, and Rivia, and Sodden. It's inhabited by dwarves, gnomes, and bobolaks. A bobolak is basically a humanoid race with a short stature. It has skin covered with hair, and some bobolaks were members of Freginel's warband of Koschei's men. So one of its things that it does for just the slightly bigger kingdoms in the world is that it is a very big exporter of iron and steel to the northern kingdoms and Nilfgaard. So there is a lot of mines, foundries, and forges located there. The iron that's actually from Mahakam is considered some of the best iron in the world, and it's very famous for its quality. Aside from the iron, Mahakam is also very famous for its weapons, which are forged using advanced gnomish technology. So apart from the fact that, like typical sort of, I suppose, dwarven things, being good at mining and everything, it's also quite famous for something known as the Ale Festival. It takes place every 25 years. There was actually a Gwent event on about it, and it attracts thousands of participants from every part of the world. So I just want to read a little bit of this journal entry, which basically talks about this festival. The commander-in-chief, who is Brover Hogg, who you might know from the Gwent game as a gold card, is very, very distrustful of travellers, but he will open his gate if it is the festival, while the Great Mahakam Ale Tucking. So basically, Mahakam is a very closed-off place, except from during this festival, so that's when people get a better look of it. So as I mentioned earlier, Mahakam is basically a mountain range, but also a city, obviously. And located in the mountains of Mahakam is a mountain known as Mount Carbon. This is a very famous mountain. It's known for its weapons, which are used to forge using the advanced gnomish technology I mentioned. And this is where a lot of their mines and foundries are located. It is a very, very famous mountain within the Witch universe. So I want to go over some notable people from Mahakam. Just very basically, because these people could be obviously just characters for future videos that I might do. So the first the first dwarf I wanted to go over is Barclay Els. So he was a commander-in-chief of the Mahakam Volunteer Army, which is basically just a dwarven infantry unit. And it's an army full of, obviously, dwarven volunteers. They were also Mahakam's what they used to contribute to the war against Nilfgaard. He's mainly featured in the graphic novels, The Witcher, Matters of Conscience. That was what was released with the Hearts of Stone expansion. So he's basically just a Mahakam general. We'll go over him maybe more in a later video, maybe about dwarves in general. The next Mahakam dwarf I wanted to go over was Brover Hogg, and he is the elder of Mahakam, and he was basically the leader of Mahakam, I suppose you could say, the king of Mahakam. He lives at Mount Carbon, that I mentioned earlier. He is quite funny because if you've heard of the Scoia'tael, which is, you definitely would have heard of them, they're basically the guerrilla unit fighting against humans. He forbade dwarven youths to actually join it. He's not exactly well liked. Like, for example, Zoltan Shive does not like him at all. He's pretty sure, you can tell just from stuff he says in the game that he doesn't like him, and the books I suppose. He's very traditional and conservative. So we'll get into him more in a later video, obviously, because he's a big character, but he's the elder of Mahakam, basically, and the leader of all the dwarven clans there. Dennis Cranmer, who you probably know from that short part of the Witcher books at the start, where he's with Duke Hereward's guards. Percival Skuttenbach, and he was the only gnome in Zoltan Shive's company, and we'll get into him in a later video because he appears quite a lot. He's actually in The Witcher PC, like The Witcher PC and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Not in it, but he's mentioned. So there's a poster in The Witcher PC which is advertising Skuttenbach's Jewelers, where every ring is that special thing. So that's a poster just obviously about him. And in The Witcher 3 you can find his shop in Novigrad, which is about 100 paces south of St. Gregory's Bridge, but it's completely abandoned and it's been closed down. There's actually a note that hangs on the front door, which is, as a result of an incident of racial nature, Percival Skuttenbach has moved his shop to Mahakam. We invite all our loyal customers to visit us at Mount Carbon. Sheldon Skaggs, who you'll know from The Witcher 2 Assassin of Kings. Yarpen Zigrin, who you'll just know from the books in general. He appears a lot. He was actually a veteran of the Battle of Brenna, and he is I suppose you could say a dwarven leader, in a way. Well, he's also a dragon slayer, but that's in the books. You'll get to that if you read them. I will, just to clarify everyone, I will go over all these characters in much more detail in later later videos. This is basically just an overview of Mahakam as a whole. I don't want to go too into certain characters in this video. There's also Yazem Vada, which was also a member of Zoltan's company. And last but not least, the final dwarf I want to talk about is Zoltan Shive. So he was also a veteran of the Second Nilfgaardian War, and we know him just from The Witcher 3 in general, the books, and he is probably the most famous of the dwarves, at least maybe apart from Yarpen. Not in the Witcher universe, just for us as the player, probably one of the most famous. So yeah, obviously we're going to do a proper video about him at some point in the future, just as we'll do for Yorveth and everybody else, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So just a little bit of trivia just to end this. There is actually a river in Indonesia called the Mahakam River. This is where the author got the name from. So it's one more thing just to end the video of. I just want to mention that earlier I did say it was a vassal state, and it is actually a vassal state of Temeria, which I personally don't know what happened to it after the war with Nilfgaard. I assume Nilfgaard must have taken it over in some way, because depending on how the game goes, Nilfgaard can either completely take over or not, so we don't know what happens to Mahakam. Its currency is Orans, and its government, which is quite strange, is an elective monarchy. So it's, imagine a monarchy that works the same as a government, in the sense that you can elect your king. It's a bit like how the Skelligans work. They have their clans. It's actually exactly how the Skelligans work. They have their clans and they vote their king, and that's their king till they die. That's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be sure to go into more of the Witcher clans, strongholds, characters, etc. in later videos. I just thought I'd go over Mahakam today because it's always interested me, and I feel like it's just mentioned so much. It's great to know a little bit more about it. And there's not absolutely piles of information on it. We can imagine that its architecture is very similar to other dwarven cities, which I will be showing you on screen, maybe either through the pictures that I'll put on or just through whatever video clip I use. If you're a subscriber, be sure to like the videos. It lets me know that you like the video, and it lets me just know that this is the sort of stuff you like. And if you're new and you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe, as it's really cool and we get more people. So I'll see you all soon. Have an awesome rest of the week, guys.